What is going on, Jet fans? Matt O'Leary back with another video. It is Super Bowl Sunday, baby. Let's go. In today's video, I will be talking about 5 things that the New York Jets need to be a Super Bowl contender in 2024. Unfortunately, fell short in 2023. Again, they haven't made the playoffs since 2010, which is the longest active streak in all of sports. Absolutely insane that it's been that long without a playoff appearance. But what I want to get into today is 5 things the Jets can do to change that. All right, guys, the big game is here. 3 plays on Underdog Fantasy. Make sure to sign up with my code down below in the description. There's a link. Get in on the action while you can. I'm excited for this game. So Isaiah Pacheco higher than 69.5 rushing yards is my first play. I think they're going to utilize him a lot in this game. Christian McCaffrey higher than 5 receptions. I think that Brock Purdy's going to be checking the ball down. And we know how good of a weapon Christian McCaffrey is in both the rushing game and the passing game. And then finally, you have George Kittle at a higher with a scorcher of 1.2 times. 0.5 rush plus receiving touchdowns, so he's just got to get in the end zone. I think both tight ends get in the end zone with George Kittle and Travis Kelce, but I'm putting George Kittle in because he's got the scorcher. 10 to win, 71.90. Get in on the action using my code over at Underdog Fantasy. Now, the easy thing will be a new coach, new coordinator, new GM, right? That's not realistic. At this point, I'm sorry, it's not. I wish it was. I wish it was something that was realistic for this team in order to improve at those spots. It's not. So instead, I'm going to try to make this as realistic as possible because I can make it like a legit GM, a legit head coach, legit offensive coordinator. That's 3 things, and then you're halfway through the list. So I'm going to try to do my very best to do things that they could actually control to make themselves a contender. This is not in any particular order, but we will start with something that I've talked about, I think, every single day for the last 6 months. Fix the offensive line. That is most important. I don't care how you fix it, whether it's Elijah Vera-Tucker at guard or tackle, Joe Tippmann at center or guard. At minimum, the New York Jets need 2 new starters at either spot. An offensive tackle in the draft, an offensive tackle or a guard, depending on where you're going to play AVT in free agency. And then you're on your merry way to fixing that thing, right? And maybe you're replacing Laken Tomlinson also, so it could potentially be 3 new starters. I'm optimistic, cautiously optimistic it'll be 3 new starters. I hope it's a lot more depth on that unit as well, but potentially at an absolute minimum 2 new starters on the offensive line, preferably 3 new starters on the offensive line. And they have to go from literally worst in the league, 32, to top 16. I will set the bar at middle of the pack. Anything that is above average to above average is good. Obviously, I want it to be great. From 32 to 1 is very, very challenging expectations. But if they could jump from 32 to somewhere between 10 to 16 and be a top half of the league offensive line next year, that would be a major win and go a long way for this team. Number 2, Aaron Rodgers playing at an elite level. The Jets have not had a quarterback play at an elite level for a sustained period of time for a very, very long time. And that's part of the reason why they've struggled so much in their history. But if Aaron Rodgers is playing at an elite level, a definite top 10 quarterback level, he has the ability to hide the flaws of a play caller, an offensive line, a head coach, and the rest of your roster. We've seen it in the NFL. Elite level quarterbacks have carried teams much further than what they deserve to go. It happens all the time in the NFL. Yes, it's important to have a good head coach, a good roster, all these things. But the most important position in the sport by far is quarterback. And if Aaron Rodgers is playing like an elite one, it makes their life significantly easier. Played 4 snaps in 2023. In 2022, was not at an elite level, played most of that year with a broken thumb. If he goes back to what he was, the 2 back-to-back MVP years in 20 and 21, that would be great. Even if it's like 80% what he was those 2 years, where you're talking like, I don't know, 4,100 yards, 35 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, something like that. That would go a really, really long way for the New York Jets being a contender. When you keep in mind the thought of Garrett Wilson improving, Breece Hall improving, and getting some other guys just on that roster who's already here improving because of the better quarterback play. Number 3 on my list, the Jets must acquire, either by a free agency or a trade, a 1B wide receiver and find a wide receiver 3 or 4 in the NFL draft. I'm talking for the 1B, Devontae Adams trade, T. Higgins, Calvin Ridley, someone like that, a guy who's been, proven to give you right around 1,000 yards in a season, 900 plus yards in a season would be really, really nice. It'd help you feel a lot more comfortable about that room. And then adding a Roman Wilson, Malik Washington, Brendan Rice type somewhere in the mid rounds. I don't think you're using pick 10 on wide receiver. I think they will be using that on offensive tackle. As explained earlier in this video, offensive line, they desperately need to improve on. But if you do that, right? So let's just pick 2 of these names here. We'll go, I don't know, Calvin Ridley's kind of the flavor of the week, and Roman Wilson had a really nice Senior Bowl, so maybe him in the 3rd round. If your wide receiver room is going into next year, Garrett Wilson, Calvin Ridley, Roman Wilson, Allen Lazard, Jason Brownlee, and Xavier Gibson in no particular order, that's a significant improvement from where they were a year ago. Number 4, they have to stay top 5 in defense and special teams DVOA. They were very, very good in both of those. They finished 3rd in both of those. And I think both of those units have to remain at an elite level for this team to have a chance. They cannot have a fall off on defense or specials. Bring back Thomas Morstead, bring back Greg Zuerlein, bring back Justin Hardy, bring back essentially the entire defense. If you're letting Bryce Huff walk, which I don't agree with, but I would do everything I can to retain him. If you don't, then the Jets need Will McDonald to take a Jermaine Johnson-like year 2 leap. They need Jermaine Johnson to get better in year 3. They need everyone else to stay at the level that they were on the defensive side of the ball, and the same with special teams. They need to be a top 5 unit in both defense and special teams in order to stay, or get to, I guess, a Super Bowl contender with the improvements on the offensive line, having Aaron Rodgers at an elite level, and the improvements in the wide receiver room. Last, but certainly not least, health. Health is so important for this team. It is incredibly important for this team. They last year, and for many, many years, have gotten absolutely decimated by injuries. Offensive line, quarterback, all over the team. They haven't had a quarterback play a full season since 2015, and that one's even a little bit fraudulent because if you remember, Ryan Fitzpatrick, who started a game against Oakland, got hurt, and Geno Smith had to come in and play most of that game. So really, it's more like 2013. Geno Smith's rookie season was the last time the New York Jets actually had a starter play and complete pretty much every single game. That's absurd. They can't have, injuries to the offensive line again. And luckily, knock on wood, for the most part, there's been some, bumps and bruises on that defense. But for the most part, the big names have stayed healthy on that defensive side of the ball with Sauce Gardner, DJ Reed, Quincy Williams, Michael Carter in the slot, JFM, Jermaine Johnson, Will McDonald next year. Most of that core has been very, very healthy, and they need that to be a thing. Now, I get it. It's the NFL. You're not going to go through a season completely injury-free, and you have to be able to overcome injuries, but they can't have a massive, massive, massive devastating blow. They can't overcome it. So they need a lot, right? Those 5 things are a lot. Health, extremely important. Defense and special teams needs to stay the same. Jets must improve the wide receiver room, get a 1B, get a wide receiver 3-4 in here. Aaron Rodgers play at elite level, and of course, fix the offensive line. Those 5 things should make the Jets a Super Bowl contender. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'm Matt O'Leary. I'll catch you next time.